Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Aquaristik Real Talk, dem Podcast von Bustani Aquaart. Mein Name ist Holger Engstler und das ist meine Show. Ja Leute, hallo, willkommen live von der Vivarium in Holland. Heute habe ich einen ganz besonderen Interviewpartner und weil der Partner aus Amerika kommt, werde ich jetzt in Englisch reden. I will switch into English and welcome to the Vivarium show. And I have with me Cory from Aquarium Co-op, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We are here at the Vivarium fair, the Vivarium event in Holland. Cory is coming from America, a long way.
It was a 4-hour flight and then a layover and another 8-hour flight and then an 11-hour drive to get here.
11 hours drive because you flew to?
Closed. Yeah, I flew into Frankfurt and the Autobahn was closed. Should have taken 4 to 5 hours. Took 11 to drive instead.
All right. Yeah. This is, so what brings you here? I know this Chris Loophauper, which I'm very thankful, introduced us to. And he is a famous shrimp guy here in Germany. And what brings you here?
Well, you know, first and foremost, Chris and I are becoming pretty good friends. We like to travel together and that. And I had never done Vivarium, and he says, "Oh, you have to do Vivarium." And I put it off last time before COVID, and then this time, even though I have this week in 7 days, I'm going to do 3 different shows, 2 in Europe and 1 in America. But sometimes you just have to go, "Yep, I'm going to do this." Otherwise, I'm always going to have an excuse. And so here I am with a booth with Chris. We invited a couple other creators and just to meet the fans, because oftentimes I have lots of shows I do in America, but I know I have fans worldwide, and I don't get a chance to really meet and greet and listen to them and what's the problems they're having in Europe. And not that I can solve everything, but it's good just to listen. Like, what are you enjoying? Is it, you know? And
that's what it's all about. And you have, for those listeners who don't know you, you have a quite famous YouTube channel. How much subscribers you have at the moment?
I think at this time about 845,000 subscribers.
So a million is the goal.
Yeah, it's slow and steady, and you know we've got for almost 500,000 on Facebook, and you know a bunch of different platforms and all of that. And I'm still find it weird that people want to listen to me, because 10 years ago I'm just a normal hobbyist. I don't like speaking in public, any of that.
And you bought a small aquarium store out of a hobby.
Yep.
And then you started your YouTube channel, and the social media supported the growth of your store. And so during the last couple of years, a real organic growth in your store. And the store getting bigger and bigger, and the YouTube channel getting bigger and bigger.
Everything's growing. Yeah.
We ourselves as well.
Very much true. The more I travel the world, the more I think everybody is the same. You know, I tell a lot of people, because I get the chance to go to so many countries, and at the end of the day, everybody just wants to provide for their family and live life, no matter what government you have, what country, all of that. And even though I only speak English, I can talk with everybody in the world, because you can point at a fish and both fish keepers know that looks really cool. I want to own that, all of these things.
So you have been a hobbyist. What was your special interest in as you were still a hobbyist?
Yeah, when I very first started, it started with a little bit of African cichlids and breeding. And then I really fell in love with monster fish keeping, lots of big fish.
Like, which is typical for America, I would say.
Yep.
We don't have these monster fish keeping tanks, and you see these YouTube videos where they have a 20,000 gallon tank and they put in 7 fish.
Right.
And every fish has a name.
Yep. Yeah, so I did that for a few years, and then it actually, like, I really fell in love with breeding is my main passion. Breeding any type of fish, honestly, but especially any fish I haven't bred yet. That's the next one I want to figure out and do. But it came down to making money and things, and so breeding African cichlids, I did that for many years, being in America. And then I turned it more to my passion, which was live bearers. I really like live bearing fish.
Guppies? Fancy guppies?
Guppies, and yeah, so guppies, I love them, but two, they make really good money. But then, like, most of my fish room right now is wild caught live bears that don't look that amazing to the average hobbyist, but they're rare and fun to collect. And you go to the conventions and you get them, and you know, it's you want to collect them all.
You've been to Israel,
Yes.
reckon. You know, the fancy gubby breeder who is focusing on body shape and not on finish.
Rand.
Yes.
I've been to Rand's farm.
I know
He's
him
the
as well.
Most amazing facility I've ever visited, I actually think. You know, just the technology and the robot feeder and some of the stuff that I can't even talk about that they're doing. It's mind-blowing. And it's actually, we were scheduled to go back, but then COVID happened. So I only got to visit like 1.5 of his farms. He owns 10 farms.
Yeah.
And so him and Chris are really good friends. And Rand's the nicest guy on the planet.
And during the daytime, he's shadowing his prawn facility with solar panels, mining bitcoins, which pays for the heat in the night, which is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, for people that don't know, it's, you know, you got to set the scene. There's 10 fish farms in the middle of the desert. It kind of makes no sense and all the sense at the same time. You have unlimited sunlight. You have heat. You have a lot of these things that you just don't have water. That's the only thing you don't have. And so, you know, it's quite weird to drive in the desert for so many hours to get there, and then there's this water oasis essentially. Yeah,
I'm a good friend of mine from Zurich. He's a very good friend of the Israeli guy. So you come to Europe quite often?
It's getting more and more common, yeah. I was here just like 3 or 4 months ago, for a couple of weeks.
For a couple of weeks, you went to the Interzoo as well?
Yep.
Which is a quite different fair than this one because it's for resellers and wholesale people. Yeah. What would you say from a wholesale perspective is the biggest difference between German or European wholesalers and American wholesalers? Yeah. Especially concerning the fish. You know, you have been to Glaser, you have been to Reunemann's.
Well, in Europe in general, and I think it comes from the customer first, but everybody is chasing quality, the best, almost at no price. I mean, there is price is somewhat of a factor, but if you can have a product that is just better, it will win in this market. And in the American market, just because your product's better doesn't mean it'll win. It's all about marketing and the price. And so if it's cheaper, it can win. If you can market it really well, it can win. If it's in the chain stores, it can win. You can have just superior products that don't win, where in Europe, I find products all the time I've never heard of, but you talk to the hobbyists, like, this is the best, you have to use it. You know, in America, that doesn't happen. It's the marketing is what sells stuff, and so luckily for me, my YouTube channel, I get to market stuff, but that's
you have your own fertilizer series. You have your own water.
We have over 50 products now. That we manufacture and everything.
You manufacture in America?
Some of them, like the fertilizers and things, or some. But then most of ours is China and Taiwan. Is mostly. We're trying to diversify more and more, just because it, you know, with maybe tariffs and wars and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, or COVID things. We really put a lot of things in perspective of, like, no matter how good I am at selling stuff, if I don't have stuff to sell, I can't do my job. So, like, we need to diversify just in case. And so we're working more and more on how can we use more countries, and maybe it's just, you know, even plants from multiple countries and fish from multiple countries and all of these things, just to get the best thing we can for the consumer and make sure we don't just run out of stuff.
You have a huge online store as well?
Yeah.
Which is a part of the success story.
It definitely fuels everything. Like, the reason I'm here, it makes no financial sense for me to spend the money and to be in Europe, except for that YouTube supports me, and then the store in America supports me. So, like, the store last year itself did over $10 million in revenue, and so, you know, you have to spend it on something. In gross. Yeah, not in profit, I wish. But, you know, you got to spend it on something, and I like to give back to the fans. And, you know, not that meeting me is this big magical thing, but being here and learning, and maybe I can give tips to the wholesalers and the other stores here, and help them serve their customers better too.
Of course. We have these huge plant suppliers in Europe, Tropica, Denale.
That's actually one of the biggest differences between America and Europe. Every fish wholesaler in America also wholesales plants. Here in Europe, almost all the fish wholesalers don't wholesale plants because you have so many good farms that go direct to the stores.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have that in America.
Yeah. And also, you mentioned Corona a couple of times. We in Europe, we have the feeling that the Corona really supported the hobby in the first couple of months. You know, the people had the lockdowns, even more in Europe than they had in America. Yeah. But and quite young people came into the hobby, which is a good thing.
It was great for the hobby
because even in Germany or even in Europe, I would say. We have these old man smell, which is typical for the aquarium sellers, which we have in Europe. They all smell the same. They smell like old men.
Yeah.
Because the hobby is driven still
by... We have the same problem in America. All the clubs, it's a bunch of people that are old, and very few young people ever come.
Yes.
When I go speak, I can bring some in, and I try to get them in.
How old are you, Cory?
I'm 39.
39, okay. So I'm 55. And when I'm the youngest guy in the room, there must be something very wrong with the association. I know it from the Killifish Association in America.
They're like another age older, the Killifish Association in America,
This is really, and the same is...
Which really shows me like, this is on the verge of dying. If we don't get younger people in, that's a problem.
That's a huge, huge problem. You know, we already spoken. I'm coming from the Killifish, from the Notobrachio side especially, which is not very relevant for the aquaristic hobby, but still some Notobrachus are regularly sold in the shops.
We usually have at least one or two species in our store.
Something like this, which is easy to breed and comes from Asia mostly.
Yep.
But still, these younger people now, they come into the hobby and they all see these beautiful aquascapes, and they all want to have an aquascape like this. And now we see a quite different trend in Germany, because all the people who bought aquariums during the height of the Corona pandemic now going to sell their tanks because of the energy prices and the rapid thing. And I wonder if all the shops are prepared, because they had golden years during Corona. Yeah. They had golden years. You know, they were the only shops which were still open, and the people could still shop. And now everything is sort of changing.
I've been talking to my fans about it, because it's a valid concern for almost worldwide. Energy prices, everything's going up. And I think stores, what they need to do is help transition the hobby to more things that don't have to be heated. So shrimp and killies and I wouldn't say necessarily goldfish, because that's but danios and just rice fish. There's so many fish that actually don't have to be heated above what humans would be comfortable in their house.
Even there's some African barbs like Andromus holsterti and yae.
A lot of pseudomogil rainbows actually go pretty cool. Yeah.
There's a lot, and this is what I said in my last podcast. I was talking about some of the people I know. I don't know if you know him, Friedrich Bitter. He's a very famous Medaka breeder, and he has also a web shop, and he specializes in fish which you can keep at room temperature.
Right.
And he did it like 1.5 years ago, and he said to me, I know this aquascaping, and he has been a judge for the ILPLC, and but you know, these high-energy aquariums, these high-energy tanks, they are a thing of the past. We should focus on getting more like room temperature is.
It's a smart business thing for the hobby in general, because, like, I've always focused on community tanks, because it's the most sustainable thing no matter what time in your life. If you just had a baby, you can keep your fish tank going. If you have a high-end aquascape, you don't have the time because you just had a baby. And so we've always focused on how can we reach the most amount of people, and fish that don't have to be heated, that's just one more step in the right direction. If you just need something that will hold water and you can be an aquarist, that's where we win.
That's where we win, and especially is if the people don't get frustrated, because their first aquascape will have algae.
Right.
It will have its downsides. you will be fed up with your own aquascape after 3 months because nobody told them how to do it properly.
Well, and what I like to tell people when I was in the store and everything is like the high-end aquascape is really nice, and you think you can do it because you watch someone do it, but this is no different than learning to fish. Just because I watched you catch a fish out of a river doesn't mean I'm going to be good at catching fish. You have to go, well, what does it feel like when I bite the hook and all of these things that you don't know yet, and you're going to have to learn through trial and error. And so even if you buy the best light, the best CO2, the best plants, all of these things, you don't know what the bite on the hook feels like, and you don't know, oh, this plant's starting to struggle or this, and you have to learn about algae. You have to have algae to learn how to keep it away. Exactly. You can't,
And you can't expect that your first aquascape if you're very new to the hobby, because as you and I, we come from a hobby side. We have as little kids, we had community tanks.
Yep.
Then we grown up and we were specializing in some things and breeding fish. So we have a long history. And I only came to aquascaping 2.5 years because of Corona.
Yeah.
I came to the aquascaping hobby, and I immediately started to be competitive and have contest tanks.
Yep.
And I entered my first tank in the ILPSC, and I made rank 598, which is nice for a first-time participant. But I had a history of 35 years of keeping fish, and I had a history of 35 years of the aquarist hobby. So I basically knew what I can and can't do. And I learned a lot what I cannot do. Even I thought I could.
Yep. Well, we all like to think we're capable and stuff, and then at some point we realize,
wow,
it's not just science; it becomes art. You can study. I could study art forever. It doesn't mean I can become a painter. Like I can make art, but it doesn't mean I can replicate someone else's style. At a certain point, nature becomes it's a mixture of science and art. I'm really good at the science part, not so good at the art part. And time and energy and all of that, and you just have to feel it and learn it over time, and that's something that's really hard to teach.
Which is nice that you say art, because I think a high-end aquascape is a high-end form of art.
Very much so.
It's got not very much to do with a normal aquarium, but it's like a living art piece which is in your living room, which is the furthermost goal is that you have a nice looking tank in your living space or in your personal surroundings. And this sometimes gets confused by the young people with the competition part. It's a very different thing to enter into a competition and to be competitive, which is a good thing. But it's a very different thing in having a nice tank in your living room and entering a competition tank.
Yes.
That the work which surrounds these high-end aquascapes is unbearable.
The new people don't know when they bring a picture and I want to build this aquarium, and I go, do you realize that there's no filter on it right now? Did you realize to get the ripple on the top of the tank, they used a hair dryer? They're using 3 different lights to make it look like a sunrise is happening. This won't be in your living room. This is a picture of a good tank done this way, but I guarantee if I go to this person's house, it looks similar, but not this good.
You see this in the ILPOC videos of the winning tanks, when they get interviewed by the ADA people, and they sit in front of their competition tanks. You barely can recognize them. It's like a shadow of the tank which you saw in the picture. Because of the lighting and because of professional photography.
It's no different than, you get one good picture in your life and you had a professional makeup artist, hairdresser, someone that dressed you, and that one snapshot in time is the best you're ever going to look. Yeah, it's the best time you're ever going to look, and then there's every day when you have to get up and go to work, and that's actually what you look like, and that's what your aquarium actually is. Every day you get up and there it is in your living room.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And what I really like about your channel is your very down-to-earth information that you're giving. You don't want to overcomplicate things. You want to make it as simple for the average hobbyist to keep fish, just to further the hobby.
I know that if I can make it accessible,
accessible is the word I was looking for.
If my job is just to get you in, there's so many other people that can take you further. But if you're the best aquascaper in the world, you might not be good at getting a 14-year-old kid to get in. But when he's 20 and wants to aquascape, you take him the rest of the way. Yeah. I've done my job. I realized my job, my whole goal in my business and everything I do is to get people that have one aquarium and might not be a hobbyist yet. Maybe they have one betta, or maybe they had a tank as a kid, or maybe they got a tank for their child. My whole goal is to turn them into a hobbyist, and a hobbyist to me is someone who at least once a month wants to go to a pet store, wants to be tinkering with it,
buy some live food.
Yeah, and doesn't only react when, there's something wrong, I guess I should take it to the vet or get it fixed. Instead, they're going, I want to go see if they have anything new at the pet store, and stay and make it a hobby, and hopefully it's a family hobby. I like it when like my wife likes fish, doesn't love it like I do, but it becomes a hobby thing of, hey, do you want to drive there? We'll go out to dinner, but I want to look at the fish at that fish store. I haven't been there in a few months, and it becomes this family tradition.
Which is nice with me and my wife. You already saw Sonia. We like to travel, and we like to travel to Africa, and this is which is a common goal. Sonia does not like it to stand in the pond the whole day, but if you can make a good mixture of collecting fish and doing some nice lodges in between and doing some safari. Sonia is very fond of photographing wildlife in Africa. So you have a good mixture, and it becomes a family thing. Yes. We don't have kids, but
we don't either.
Small family, which is good because the travel and everything I do and everything Sonia does would not be possible with kids. And so, as I learned yesterday, traveling to Africa is also still on your bucket list.
Very much so. Yeah. Any country that has fish that I like that I haven't been to yet, I really want to go. And then there's always other stuff my wife would want to do as well, and so, and there's just things that you don't even know are kind of cool until you're there, like, oh yeah, we should go see where, white clouds came from in China before they went extinct. You're just like, oh yeah, I should do that. And so, there's always so much to learn and see, and I'm constantly reevaluating everything I thought I knew was correct once I see a fish in the wild of like, that's not what I would have thought it was going to be at all, and when you see weird things of like, I just watched that fish spawn in a pop bottle, a soda bottle in Peru or something, and you're like, that's not what we see in books, and yet it puts a different perspective on everything when you get to go see it. And it doesn't mean that you're better, it doesn't anything like that, hopefully it gives you more understanding with what you're going to do with your fish.
And another perspective in the hobby in itself. Even in me, we went to Zambia in 2018, and I have been to, not to be bragging about, but I think I visited 1,000 Northobranchius pools.
Sure.
And then we went to Zambia, and there was a whole valley flooded, like 1.5 or 15 miles this side, 15 miles that way, and everything was underwater like 1.5 meters.
Yeah.
And the water was still running down the hills like in streams. And you can imagine how much fresh water there in this valley comes. And this valley will be completely dry in the dry season. There will be no water at all. And still, I went into the pond, and with every stroke of my net, I had a pair of Northobranchius. Can you imagine how many millions of fish there must have been in this flooded area? Because one scoop, one pair.
And the crazy part is once it dries out, those fish won't even exist anymore. That's the crazy part. Same in Peru, you can do that with like apistogrammas and stuff, where it's just a leaf litter and you're pulling up families of apistos, and you're on a boat and you look up and you're like, what's that mark on the tree? Oh, that's where the water goes in the high season? That's 40 feet above me. That's crazy. So you don't from reading a book that the water goes up and down in the Amazon and stuff like that, but when you see it, you're like, that thing in that tree way up there, that's where the water goes?
And this is also 20 years of collecting, and the first time I saw it, like, it's unbelievable how much water, because we were very early in the season, the rain season was still going on, and I said, unbelievable how much water is running down the hills and filling up the whole valley. And And this is what I mean. You have to learn you can learn so much from traveling to the natural biotopes and to the natural thing, and bring this experience back to the aquarium hobby.
Well, I like to use analogies because I think people understand that easier. Because it's, you listen to that and you go, yeah, I'm sure it's magical, whatever. But imagine a firework. If you've never seen a firework go off in the sky before, and you read it in a book, and it's like lots of light in the air, and you have to light a match, and then it goes. And then, but seeing one is completely different than reading about one to look like, and you go, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful, a million different shapes, and only lasts for 2 seconds, and that's exactly what seeing fish in the wild are. You've spent so much time reading and learning, and then you go there, and it's the same and yet completely different in front of you. Yeah.
What do you think has the aquarium hobby in store for us within the next couple of years? What will be the major changes which we have to adapt to, or what do you think is coming?
I think where the hobby's going to go over time is everything's going to be on an app on your phone. Everything will probably run off USB Type-C because it can go worldwide. And as far as what do I think will be popular in terms of fish or something like that, I actually think it's going to be just more and more community stuff, as in it can all live together. And yeah, he's showing me right now his tank.
I have my in-app control. Yep. This is my ILPSC tank, my most important tank. Yep. And on my phone I can check the pH, I can check the water temperature, I can do the fertilizer dosing with the app.
And all the prices are coming down, because as we manufacture stuff, we go, well, how much is the Bluetooth integration going to cost on this product and that. And over the last, kind of right before COVID and during COVID, we're seeing many more heaters that are Wi-Fi enabled, and canister filters that'll let you know when they're starting to clog up. You'll actually get a text notification on your phone. And so these are features that help us. If you get a heater that goes bad and you get a text message, you can drive home and try to fix it. And I think we're going to want these features more and more. Fish keeping will get a little bit easier but more technical. And
yes.
The problem is we're going to see that shift when all of us old people, are kind of going away, and the new people are coming in.
In our time, we didn't have these features, and we did without it.
Yeah, you shouldn't need it to be able to spawn a fish or whatnot. And it's not that you need it; it's that it's like
it makes it's more convenient in something, but more cumbersome also, because they're struggling with technical
and every
issues.
Piece of technology has always been like this. I don't need a toilet in my house. I have an outhouse, and now I would only have a toilet in my house, right? And so there's always
running water in the house.
Yeah,
why?
Always the struggle of change. But I do think when a lot of manufacturers in China and stuff, most aquariums they want to be selling, not necessarily what America might be buying or Europe might be buying, but they'll have the digital readouts of what's the TDS, what's the temperature, what's the flow of the pump. What they want to go that way, but is the consumer ready to invest a little bit more money to get these readouts? And I think over time, it's just going to be, the price will come down, it'll get so easy. You'll want to be able to just open up your app and go, oh, I did have a nitrite spike 3 weeks ago, and no wonder I have an illness today, and whatever it's going to be, and we'll have. Now you could submit that.
But the prices have to come down significantly to make it
it has to be accessible, exactly, and so you can't pay a premium. If you have the choice of an extra $100 on the aquarium or $100 in more beautiful fish and plants, you're going to choose the fish and the plants.
Of course.
And so we need to make it so it's not a choice anymore, it's just you get it.
Yeah. Even the controller I showed you has no TDS reading, which was planned, but it's not selling that good. And the producers in Czechoslovakia, they said, we will stop producing. It was a hobby before, and we wanted to turn it into a business, but it was just not working for them. And still, the controller costs €350.
And I've played with that stuff because we end up using a lot of this kind of stuff in our warehouses and things like that. We've got so many tanks for the plants and all the stuff we're doing, and we like even my fish room at my house, I can click a button right now. I can turn all the lights on or off on any aquarium. I can press a button and start a water change on any aquarium for any amount of time I want. And these are good features just to have. It doesn't replace me being a fish keeper, but it allows me to oversee what's going on in my fish room of 70 aquariums, in my retail store, in my warehouse full of aquariums.
And you have built up a huge breeding facility as well.
Yeah.
You have this good friend, I don't remember his name.
Dean.
Dean,
Yeah.
the master breeder.
That's right, yeah.
And it's so important for us as hobbyists, but also for you as a shop owner, to have these people around.
It's very important.
Because this is, if they decide to take you under those wings,
Yep.
you will. And I had the pleasure or the privilege to be one of the guys who met Dr. Försch in person. He was a very famous breeder in Germany.
Yeah.
He basically invented the way we breed killifish today.
Nice.
In the 50s and 60s. And when I was 14, he was already an old man, but he was so kind to teach us how he does it. He didn't say it's the only way, but it's one successful way. And if you follow my footsteps and do it like I do and like I teach you here, you will have success. Success is guaranteed.
Yeah.
And when he gave me my first pair of Northobranchius, he said, Holger, he said, Bürschal, which means small boy, small child. You do your daily water changes and you will be successful. If you are lazy, then you will not succeed with this fish. And this is an ethic I still keep today.
Yeah.
I make lots of water changes because I'm used to it since 40 years. Dr. Försch told me to.
That's why I use technology. I water change. Every tank in my position gets water changed every day, but I do it automatically.
Automatically.
Yep.
Also, I have a semi-automatic system in my Northobranchius breeding rats.
He doesn't want it fully automated. He wants more control than I have.
I want to have still to turn on a plug and to have the water prepared. That you have good water in your store and your facility.
Yeah, luckily in my part of the United States, very, very good water. It's pretty much 7.0 pH out of the tap and like no hardness, so you can make it hard or it's soft out of the tap. I'm very fortunate. My new house is on a well, so I have harder water, which I am loving because I love live bears and everything. So I don't have to doctor my water up at all. But yeah, for the store and the warehouse, it's actually nice and neutral. So it makes it easy to bring in discus and other things and all of that. It's super easy. Yeah, we're lucky.
And you still in America? Is it still a custom that you have private breeders which bring in people the fish to the store, or is it mostly wholesale?
It's mostly wholesale for America. I'm lucky in that we make money, and so I get to do things. When you make good money, you then can choose to do morally good things. If you're not making money, you just have to do what makes money. So you don't go out of business.
Struggle all the time,
you have to do what you have to do
because you don't have any future if you don't have the money.
But I believe if we don't support some breeders, so if every store supported one breeder, that's how we get new color variants, new fin variants, new fish, because someone has to figure it out. Because on average, farms are interested in just making lots of fish, not necessarily new fish, and they're
not interested. There's some very pretty fish, but they're not very productive. They will never be farmed.
Well, when we talk to farms, you go there and they're like, "That's a great fish. It's not profitable compared to breeding this fish, so we don't do it." It's still a great fish for the hobby, but it doesn't make sense economically for them. And so, if we want the most access to fish, and I think we do as hobbyists, we want it all. We need to subsidize basically breeders. And so I tell Dean, I pay him whatever he asks me for a fish. He's always fair. And there's times when when the Dark Knight Rams stuff came out, I'm paying $30 a piece my cost for them, and we're only selling them for like $40. I'm making $10.
There's no profit.
There's not really any profit, but then he brings in a different fish, and I'm making good money on it. And it keeps him interested. That's the important part. Is the breeder keeps doing new things, and it keeps the hobbyist interested, which keeps me in business. And then, eventually, if it's really viable, a farm will pick it up and and they'll kind of carry it to the next thing. So if my job is getting you from 1 to 2 aquariums, maybe the breeder is to establish, like, let's get rice fish really popular, and then the farms will take over, and then they'll take on something new. And they basically have to prove that people love this, it's viable, let me figure out the 3 different ways to breed it, a farm will choose one, and from there, we'll carry that fish on for many, many years. But if we lose the independent breeders, there won't be the innovation on the new fish, and the hobby will get very stale over time.
Even the new color variants, the mutations, especially in the Medaka business, there are small Japanese families which keep their Medaka strain for 100 years on the porch, and there are, from this color variant, there is in existence maybe 30 individuals, because they have it in the family for 100 years and never gave it.
There are all these heirloom strains and all of that, and it's not only breeders. We need people to go collect fish too. Like, there's a lot of times you go on an expedition, you find stuff that is rare, but then you find stuff that's brand new, and it might be really ugly, it might be really beautiful, but someone has to go waste money and take a chance.
The same with Notobranchius. You can be, if you're 2 weeks too early, there is too much water in the ponds, you won't find the fish. If you're 2 weeks too late, the pool will be dry.
And that's why I go to Peru every year, because like last year I really wanted to film neon tetras and stuff in the wild and catch them and to show people. Well, we went there and it was dried up. You can't predict, like, well, on August 22nd, will it be at 10 feet or won't it? You can't know.
And the effects of climate change are undeniable, even in these countries where we travel to catch the fish. It's not certain that on the 10th of April you will have a pool.
Well, and how you know it's real is you can meet people that literally don't have access to the internet or news, and they will literally tell you, like, something crazy is going on. We've never seen this in our lifetime, and my grandma and my grandma's grandma has never seen this.
Never seen it before.
Like, we've never had the pool of water that we take baths at. It's dry. It's never been dry in any of our lifetimes. And so that's how you know it's like something. It could be in a big cycle and everything, but it is different than it was in the last 100 years. That's all we need to know.
As long as we live, we see, in our lifetime, we see a change.
Yeah.
And that's...
it could come back tomorrow, but it's still different today if we see it.
If we see it, that's true. 37 minutes already.
I'm a long talker.
Famous last words. Which is the premier advice you would give a newcomer interested in the hobby? What would be the advice you give him so that he stays in the hobby and becomes a long-time enthusiast?
So my advice would be, find one person you like talking with and that you've seen them have some success. They don't have to be the best. And stick with them and learn with them so that you don't get 5 different opinions and they're all telling you to do something different. You don't know.
Don't look at the internet.
You don't know which direction to go in. But then once you do get, good. So imagine you're learning to cook. Well, learn from one person. And then when you can start cooking on your own, then start teaching others and start going, well, I'm going to add this ingredient because I like it. And that's what aquariums are about, is once you've learned how to do a little bit, start experimenting. None of us knew how to do any of this until someone experiments and figures something out. And so it's tempting to just go, I saw someone do something, I'm going to do the same thing so I'll get the same result. That doesn't always work. We always have different water, different stuff going on in life, different amounts of time. And you got to find what works for you. And, I'm an overweight man. I'm never going to be a track runner. I know this, So eventually you learn, like,
welcome to my world.
Maybe this isn't for me, but this other part I do love, and this will be my thing. And I think all of us get there. We all start somewhere, and most people don't end there. They start with, I want to do this type of fish, and 20 years later, they really found their passion in something else, and they'll probably do that for a very long time afterwards. I started with the biggest fish in the aquariums, and now I love the smallest fish in aquariums.
Yes.
Complete opposite, but I couldn't have known.
All right, it's getting very hectic around us.
Cory.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.
And I will keep you informed when the podcast goes live. It will be within the next couple of days.
Excellent. My wife wanted to listen, so she's wanting to know.
Aquaristik Real Talk for the American guys. It's a German podcast mainly. but I have some interviews in English.
Nice.
Cory, thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Das war er, der Podcast von Bustani Aqua Art. Vielen Dank und bis zum nächsten Mal.